Hello friends, I am Amit Maru and today in this video we will discuss about one of the domain of AWS services, that is the AWS Compute Services. So let us start. First of all, let's get started by taking a look of our outline which will be discussed in our today's video. In our today's video, first we will discuss about basic domains of AWS services. Among these all the domains, we will discuss one important domain, that is the Amazon Computing Service domain in our today's video. And in this computing domain, we have a number of services that we will discuss in detail. The first service, that is our AWS EC2. Second, AWS EC2 Auto Scaling, AWS Lambda, AWS Elastic Beanstalk, Amazon Lightsail, and last we'll discuss about AWS Batch. These all are the various services in domain computing. So we'll discuss in detail about all the services. So let's start. As we discuss, first we'll discuss the different domains of AWS services. There are number of services in our AWS, and this all the services has been divided into different domain. The first domain is storage. In our last video, we have already discussed about storage and we have discussed about all the services of storage. Second domain, that is the compute. In our today's video, we will discuss the compute in detail. Migration, container, database, networking and content delivery, customer engagement, developer tools, and many others. Among these all the domains, as we discuss today, we will discuss one important domain, that is the compute domain. In that, number of services are there and we will discuss in detail about all the services. So compute domain, AWS compute domain of services are key resources that allows you to carry out computational abilities via a series of instructions used by applications and systems. It is a very important domain. Using this domain, you can create your own server, or we can say virtual machine, virtual server on cloud. And there are number of services to manage this server and another services that we'll discuss in detail. So AWS Compute has many services like AWS EC2. EC2 is nothing but Elastic Compute Cloud, Amazon EC2 Auto Scaling, AWS Lambda, AWS Elastic Beanstalk, Amazon Lightsail, and AWS Batch. These all are the very important services in domain AWS Compute. So let us discuss first service, that is our AWS EC2. AWS EC2, as we discuss, it is a Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud. It is also known as Amazon EC2. This is the icon of AWS EC2. The use of AWS EC2 is you can create your own virtual machine or virtual server on cloud by using AWS EC2 service. As you know that to host any application or a website, we must have a physical server, and to make physical server, we have to purchase hardware resources, software, networking device, security, etc. It is very time consuming process and very costly. Instead of that, we can get virtual server or virtual machine from the cloud, and we can configure as per our need. So whenever it is required to host our application or website, we can easily host on our virtual server or virtual machine. This virtual machine or virtual server is also known as instance. Instance is keyword normally we are using for the virtual machine or virtual server on cloud. EC2 enables on-demand scalable computing capacity in the AWS cloud. This is one of the most important features of EC2. It is scalable. It means that whenever it is required to scale up and scale down, we can easily scale up and scale down as per the need of the user. So whenever it is required a high configured server, then we can increase the configuration of our server, and wherever it is required, then we can scale down. Amazon EC2 instances eliminate the upfront investment for the hardware, and there is no need to maintain any rented hardware. As we discussed, we are not purchasing hardware, we are not making a physical server. Instead of that, we are getting virtual server from the cloud so that we can reduce overall cost, because we are not investing our money to purchase the different hardware or physical hardware for the server. It enables you to build and run application faster because provides high configured server also. So whenever it is required to get high configured server, at that time we can get server from the cloud and we can run our application very faster. By using EC2, you can create multiple virtual server with a different operating system like Linux, Microsoft Windows, Ubuntu, etc. Now next service is Amazon EC2 Auto Scaling. It is also the part of EC2. As per the name EC2 Auto Scaling, it is very important service provided by AWS where it automatically add or remove EC2 instances to meet changes in demand. So normally we cannot guess how many servers required to run our application. If more traffics are there, then more server is required to run our application smoothly. But we cannot easily guess, so that we can take these services from the AWS, where AWS will automatically add or remove servers as per the need of the application. Amazon EC2 Auto Scaling can detect when an instance is unhealthy, terminate it and replace it with a new one. Will automatically check every time our instance, whenever our instance or we can say our server is not healthy, at that time it will automatically terminate it and replace it with the new server. This is very much important to maintain our server on the cloud. It guarantees that your application always has the right amount of compute so that we can reduce overall cost for the server. It optimizes the performance and cost as it adds instance only when needed. It enables you to build and run application very faster. Now next service, that is our AWS Lambda. It is really very much important. As per the AWS Lambda is a serverless compute service. As we discussed, whenever it is required to host any website or application, at that time we must have one server. Either we can make our own physical server or we can take server from the cloud, and it is known as virtual server. Now another very important service provided by AWS, that is AWS Lambda, where no need of the server. It means that you can directly run your code without server. So it is very much important service provided by AWS where we can run our code without server. So suppose we have an expert of a programming language, or we have one developer team, and we need to only run the code. At that time we can take this kind of services where no need to think about the server. We have to just upload our code and your AWS Lambda will automatically run the code. It runs your code in response to event and automatically manage the underlying compute resources for you. So we have to just think about our code. We have to just apply our mind on our code only. Rest of the thing will be managed by the AWS. Once we apply our code, AWS Lambda runs your code on high availability compute infrastructure and perform all the administration of the compute resources. It includes server and operating system maintenance, capacity provisioning and automatic scaling, code and security patch deployment, code monitoring, etc. It means that we have to just supply our code. Rest of the thing will be managed by the AWS Lambda. Lambda natively supports Java, Python, Node.js, C#, Ruby code, and provides a runtime API which allows you to use any additional programming language to author your functions. The code you run on AWS Lambda is called as a Lambda function. This is the keyword that you need to retain. The code which you are supplying to the AWS Lambda, this code is known as Lambda function. Another benefit of AWS Lambda is we can reduce overall cost, because with AWS Lambda you pay for execution duration rather than by server unit. It means when we use Lambda function, you pay only for request served and the compute time required to run your code, so that we can reduce overall cost. Now our next service is AWS Elastic Beanstalk. This is the icon of Elastic Beanstalk. Unlike EC2, which is infrastructure as a service, Elastic Beanstalk is a platform as a service. This line is very much important to understand, because when we use EC2, we already discussed about the EC2 service. Using that, we can get a virtual server or virtual machine. But when we think about the EC2, it is an infrastructure as a service. It means that we are getting infrastructure from the cloud, but then after we have to select operating system, database, storage, security, auto scaling, everything we have to select. But suppose user has no idea about this all the services, at that time they can go for the Elastic Beanstalk, because Elastic Beanstalk is a ready-made server as per the need of the application. So it means it is a platform as a service. It allows user to directly use pre-configured server for their application. So no need to think about the auto scaling, no need to think about the operating system, no need to think about the server. The ready-made server is available for the application. You simply upload your application and Elastic Beanstalk automatically handles the details of capacity provisioning, scaling, load balancing, and application health monitoring. Elastic Beanstalk itself configures the server, but also provide facility where user can change the configuration. See here, this is the important. Elastic Beanstalk configure the server as per the application need, but user want to change the configuration, then user has the rights to change the configuration. No extra charges for the Elastic Beanstalk. Users are only required to pay for the resources and services provisioned by the Elastic Beanstalk service. It supports applications developed in PHP, Java, Python, Ruby, Node.js, .NET, etc. When we deploy our application, Elastic Beanstalk builds the selected supported platform version and provision one or more AWS resources such as Amazon EC2 instances to run your application. So this is very much important service provided by AWS. If the user has no idea about the different services, then they can go for the Elastic Beanstalk, where full configured server is available. He has to just upload the application and Elastic Beanstalk will manage the rest of the thing. Now next service is Amazon Lightsail. Here the name itself says something about the service. It is designed to be the easiest way to start and manage a virtual private server. It is same like EC2, but unlike the Amazon EC2, Lightsail doesn't have many configurations required to boot up the virtual private services. It is basically suitable for small applications at a fairly low cost. For example, to host a small website like a personal website, portfolio page, blogs, etc. So when we think about the small website, or when we think about to host a small application or website, at that time Amazon Lightsail is a best choice, and it is available with very low cost. Now last service, that is our AWS Batch. AWS Batch is also one of the best services provided by the AWS, where we can run our batch job. As you know that to run the batch job, we have to install and manage batch computing software. But AWS Batch provides all the facilities where you can run your batch jobs. AWS Batch enables developers, scientists, and engineers to easily and efficiently run hundreds of thousands of batch computing jobs on AWS. There is no additional charge for the AWS Batch. You only pay for the AWS resources such as AWS instances you create to store and run your batch jobs. So this is also one of the most important service provided by AWS, where we can run our batch jobs with low cost. At last, let us have a brief of all the services which we discussed in our today's video. First service we discussed, that is AWS EC2. AWS EC2 is a service using that we can create our own server or virtual server, virtual machine on cloud. Amazon EC2 Auto Scaling, it is also very important service provided by AWS. It automatically scale up and scale down number of instances as per the need of application. AWS Lambda, it is a serverless compute where we have to just upload our code and rest of the thing will be managed by the AWS. AWS Elastic Beanstalk, it is a pre-configured server, and it is also platform as a server where we have to apply our code on the platform and will automatically configure server as per the need of our application. Amazon Lightsail, as per the name suggests, it is basically for the low scale application, for example personal portfolio, personal website, blogs, etc. AWS Batch is also important service provided by AWS where we can run our batch jobs. So this is all about different services under AWS compute domain. So thank you very much for watching this video. Thank you again.